Hello and welcome to another edition of Application Development Today. My name is Don Jackson. I'm your host. I'm also a chief technologist here at OpenText. I almost said micro focus. That's funny. No words. So today's topic is working from home. How do you? Oh, was somebody in the door? Hello. Okay. All right. I guess I should let the dogs out too. A little funny humor today. Today I've got two people who have been working from home for a long time. They've been very successful at it. From my perspective, Mr. Chris Trimper and Mr. Joe Colantonio. Chris, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
You know, I forgot to unmute myself. I mean, I got a post-it sitting right here on my monitor, mute, but darn it, I didn't read it. I'm the QA Senior Solution Architect in Independent Health. We're a healthcare company out of Western New York. We've embraced working from home throughout the years. And then, of course, like many corporations, we're just kind of jammed into it when the pandemic hit. And we actually came out pretty okay, I think. We had lots of what we considered testing for blizzard conditions. Buffalo is known for our blizzard conditions. So we tested our Citrix connections, our network and everything. So we were pretty fortunate. We didn't fall over the first couple of days of all that stuff. And as you can imagine, working in an area where you do get bombarded with snow, there are times where it's like, well, do we shut down the business or do we shift from work from home for a day or two while we're literally digging ourselves out of inches, feet of snow, ice, and other things. So have had the opportunity to do this on and off for a while now. And now I've been working from home since, and actually even changed homes.
Wow. Yeah, Buffalo, Erie, where they measure snow in feet, not inches, or meters instead of centimeters. For those of us not in the United States where we refuse to go to the metric system, but I'm not bitter. Joe, if you want to introduce yourself.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Don, for having me again. I'm Joe from the Test Guild, and we're an online community dedicated to automation testing. So education with free webinars, courses, podcasts. And I just wrote a book called Automation Awesomeness that you should definitely check out as well. And I've been working from home pretty much half my career at least. So
you mean Automation Awesomeness?
Yes.
In hardcover?
Whoa. You're a player.
He's like, now I know who that one person was that bought
it. I'm the goofy guy that bought it digitally.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining. So, the topic, this was a suggestion that somebody made to say, how do you work from home successfully, right? In today's world, there are a lot of companies that are 100% work from home. There are other companies that are doing a lot of return to office. So actually, we're going to do kind of a two-part series. The next episode is going to be about how do you successfully return to office, right? Some of us are used to working from home and, wearing Hawaiian shirts all day and shorts and hopefully at least shorts. I don't know anyone who would do that. So the question for you guys, so I've been doing it since 2004. I don't know, Joe, do you have me beat?
Pretty much. I mean, for some reason, because we're in tech, I didn't work full time from home in 2000, 2001, but I was able to work like once a week. And then eventually I cried and complained enough to my boss where he's like, let's stay home. We get it. And I was been working from home probably at GE, probably my whole career, basically my whole career, because I complained so much about having to go to the office with the commute. So way before COVID hit, I've been working remotely. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I had the misfortune of having to move back. I worked for a company in Central Ohio, and my mother was showing early onset dementia, and I had to move back home. And my boss was really cool about it. He's like, well, I'll talk to HR. And HR goes, well, it's not something we do. My boss went, that's not a no. So let's make it happen.
Right.
And yeah, so I've been doing it since 2004. So Chris, what about you?
So I had some family events where I worked from home extended for a couple months at a time. And at that point, work was okay with it. They had VPN and it functioned, but they weren't really, not their fault, by the way, weren't really the best at equipment. So I went on Amazon and did a big bulk purchase of all the things I needed. I have two eyes, so that naturally means I need two monitors, and all the different accoutrements that go with it. And it kind of had my dry run there. Like, how am I going to work from home for an extended period of time and not basically lose my marbles? And the things were, yeah, I can work for an afternoon off my laptop screen, but I just can't work from a laptop. I can work for an afternoon using the laptop touchpad, but I need a mouse. I need a keyboard. So I had, gotten all that stuff and then slowly kept building it up. But that was on and off when my kids were younger. But prior to that, other than, blizzards and stuff, I'd always been in the office until that one Monday where it's like, yeah, you guys are now home for, what was it, 2 weeks, right? Yeah, 2 weeks. And then we lost track of what time means. And we entered some space-time continuum. And here we are today, 3.5 years later, I'm still home. But this one is now our choice. And our different departments had different decisions and rulings. But at least in the IT department, we had switched a lot of our spaces currently now to what they would consider hoteling, where you come in and you can assign yourself a space. But like, my desk is not occupying space at our corporate offices. I don't know what it is. It might be a meeting space. It might be a bathroom now. I have literally no idea what's there. but it's something that's, beneficial to the group. And one nifty thing that came out of that is now you don't have to try to convince people, hey, snow's beautiful. You got to come to Buffalo. You got to relocate to Buffalo, relocate for a job. Kind of went away for us, which was, handy and all. If you find this really talented person and they live in Florida, how do you convince somebody that lives in Florida, like in Tampa or someplace beautiful, to say like, hey, you want to come to Buffalo? You miss out on skiing. You're going to love this.
Yeah. So you started talking about some of the technology. So Joe, what would you say, what are some essentials for somebody who's working from home? What are some essentials in technology, and what are some nice to haves, and why do you feel like these are essential or nice to haves?
Yeah, I don't know because of my age, but I agree with Chris. I can't work with just a laptop. So, you have to have dual monitors, and that's essential to me. Also, good audio, good video, because you need to be on camera. Because a lot of times, I don't know if it's the case now, but when I started, people they didn't feel like, because you're working remotely, they didn't feel like you were part of the team. So the more you can make yourself visible and seen and heard, the better you're going to be. At least back then, I assume it's the same thing now. So I actually think a good camera and audio is essential, and definitely the dual monitors, because you always want to keep up. Another complaint I always got was people thought, if they don't hear or see you, that you're not working. So made sure that I was always available. So I had on my screen Slack. So anytime someone pinged me, I'd be right there to answer them. So it's like even faster than, I used to go in the office sometimes and someone would be like, I can't get a hold of this guy. And he'd be like over just the next row over. And so why wouldn't you get up and walk there? So I just made sure that I was always available so that I would be able to, interact with someone quicker than they could getting up and talking to someone across the way. So I know it sounds kind of lame, but dual monitors for sure, and better audio and video.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make everyone seasick here. I'm gonna take off my monitor so you guys can see. So I got 2,
nice, yep,
3, nice. 4 monitors. Yeah, because you know what? It helps too. When you're talking with people, I have notes up. When I'm doing these type of sessions, I have notes up on one of the other monitors. You can stay focused and look at the camera, right? You talk about having a camera, but there's camera etiquette too, right? Nobody wants to see this, right? The whole time, or this. They're typing at their keyboard, right?
Right.
Just like
I was going to say.
Go ahead.
I'm getting, this is going to sound maybe TMI, I'm getting a little tired of people positioning the laptop in such a way that you're forced looking up their noses during meetings. That's been a weird, awkward one on occasion. So to whichever person that was on my team, I'm sorry, I didn't say your name, but maybe, tilt it forward just a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, so
good.
Go ahead.
I was going to say also, for some nice to haves, I think a standing desk and a good chair. And your own space, definitely critical.
Well, I
Those
think
are
that having your own space is one of the key things. I mean, when I started teleworking in 2004, I had uh, I only had 4 kids at the time instead of 5, and I had 2 kids still at home, in diapers, and it was absolutely paramount to be able to close the doors, and I had solid doors to my office, so that Dad was at work. And I think that's one of the other things too is when you're at work to your family.
Yes.
Soft skill stuff, right, is super important. But yeah, having your own dedicated space, I think, is
Must.
absolutely a must, right? Just like from a technology standpoint, it's not really technology. I mean, I guess you could call it technology, right? I mean, I have technology in my fan, right? The
Yeah.
lights and sorry, I'm stretching it there, but yeah. So beyond technology. So Chris, we talked about having an isolated space, good chair. What are some of the other non-technology things that you need to make sure that you're doing?
I mean, definitely coming up with your schedule. It's a little easy to think to yourself, I'm just going to roll out of bed when I roll out of bed, and just start working when I want to start working. But you're basically, your home has become an extension of your office. Sure, you don't have the commute, so that's great and all, because you're saving yourself, well, gas mileage and headaches, because there's a lot of silly, not good drivers on the road. Um, but you definitely want to be in the right mind space for sure. I did want to touch upon one thing, extending from what Joe was saying, and sometimes just a good pair of canceling headphones
Yep.
can be a way to give yourself your own office space if you can't actually afford the office space. It's not like everyone out there says, "Oh, I had a bedroom that I wasn't using. I had a corner of my basement that I wasn't using." Sometimes you got to make do with that. And apparently Don has an obsession buying headphones. No one ever would do that, because I just bought these over the weekend. But for sure, that's an area. Honestly, just making it so that your workspace is something that is comfortable to you. I had a standing desk, and honestly, I didn't do well standing at a desk. Meetings, great, but actually productivity, I found myself wanting to pace, and it just didn't work well for me. I actually recently converted back to a sitting desk. But it's got to work for you. It's got to be something that you can do. Just because it's the latest fad doesn't mean it's the thing for you to do. Do you need to go out and buy a $150 mechanical keyboard because that's the fad? I couldn't possibly tell you if that's a wise idea. You want to, I didn't say it was a $120 one, but you don't have to buy exactly what everybody's doing.
Get reimbursed by your company, you can, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I got to be honest.
Some companies do that, and I got to give. I'll give a shout out. Early on, our company did offer up we realized that you've been put out. We're going to give you a little bit of a boom and say, buy yourself a good chair, buy yourself whatever it is. I mean, it wasn't a blank check or something like that, but it was enough to buy a chair.
Yep.
In fact, I might have even used it to buy this chair. I don't have that good of a memory.
Well, it's funny you talk about the keyboard. So, I mean, this is my work keyboard. Do you notice there's letters missing on it, right? Because I've had it that long. I mean, I bought this keyboard when I started teleworking, right? I have a cheap keyboard. Yeah. I have, on my home computer, I've got a nice keyboard, but it's whatever you feel comfortable with. I think that's absolutely critical to, making sure you feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
It has to be a constructive space. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but sometimes just buying a lamp and having a lamp just so that you have some ambient light. Other things I do, sometimes I have, it's over there so you can't see it. I have a wax burner. Sometimes you might want to have an aroma that gets you, thinking about the mood. And Don's now shifting his desk again. But, in the winter, maybe I want to smell pine trees, or, well, usually it's actually sugar cookies, what I put in there, which is not always the best idea, because then you're thinking you have to go to the store and buy cookies. But, just something that makes it productive for you. For me, one thing that's been amazing, I have a lovely pair of speakers behind me. I can not blast, but I can listen to my music that makes me productive without having to be worrisome of my cube mates, because there's nobody on that side of the wall.
Yeah, I remember when I started in an office, I shared an office space with 3 other people. So there was a desk on each wall when I started at this one company, and I had come from where I had my own office, like I had doors closed and stuff like that. And so I was listening to stuff, and at the time I was singing opera as well, and I'd practice my opera, and that didn't go over well in the office. Right there, right? That did not go over well in the office. So, you guys have touched on some things. So I think, Joe, you touched on something really critical too. Being hyper vigilant, being present and aware, and being one of the things that I found really worked well is with every time that I've changed whoever my career manager is, right? They get a status report from me unasked for until they tell me to stop sending status reports, right? These are the things I planned for next week. These are the things I accomplished this week. These are the problems I've had. This is how I resolved the problems I had, right? Documenting all of that. I think that's, go ahead.
They just remind me, I used to do that every Friday as well when I was working for the man. And definitely helpful. Also, like you said, another thing you can do to make yourself more hyper vigilant is, I think Chris and I talked about this as well when he was recreating his workspace, where you have a workspace dedicated to your business stuff, and then you have your personal stuff somewhere else, so you're not being distracted multiple times. A lot of times I see people having their work and their personal computer side by side. And I guess with the phone, you can't get away from it. But I find that, like you said, it's best to have them separated to keep you hyper focused on work as well. And yeah, for sure. And having that Friday report documenting everything also helps you when you're getting a review. And so it's like a dual benefit. Not only does it show you being productive, but you have something to go back in time and say, hey, look at everything I did throughout the year. At GE, we had to write a report every year of like a 360 of what we all did. And that was really helpful as well.
So what do you guys think then are some of the pitfalls that you can get from working from home?
So one thing I think Chris mentioned that you need to do is you need to treat it like a job, even though you're not commuting to the office. I get up same time I did when I was working at the company. I'd get dressed, I'd shower, and I'd go to the office, which was down the hall to my room. I think a lot of people think, oh, you're working out of your PJs and you're at the kitchen table, like you said, being distracted. That is a recipe for a disaster. And I think, like you said, definitely getting up, being productive that way, making sure you're treating it like you're just going to work like you would, just doing those simple things is going to help you stay on focus. Letting your spouse know that you're working. My mother-in-law would call me, and because I was working from home, and think that I can come over and help her.
Yeah.
Like you have to educate them. Look, yeah, I'm home, but I'm really not home, So like you have to kind of get that balance down and kind of train your family to let them know. Like, I guess like now, I don't know if people have that same thing, but when I started, like letting them know, yeah, I'm really working from home and I'm really working. So, even though I'm there, don't treat it like I'm open to help everything in the house.
I used to say if the doors are closed, I'm not here.
Right. Yes.
I mean, treat it the same thing, right? Yeah, you can reach out to me on my cell phone, but when I'm in the office, what would you reach out to me on the cell phone for?
Yes.
An emergency, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So if it's an emergency, yeah, you can break in. But if it's not, I'm not here. I'm just not here. I think one of the other things too that you miss out on is the social aspect, right? So building those social relationships with people. You don't have, and this is both, I think this is both good and bad, right? This is a pitfall and also a benefit. When I started teleworking, man, my productivity went up by like 40% because I had nobody coming over and go, dude, did you see the game last night?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I did. And you spend the entire time that they're there like this. I'm not looking at my computer. I'm talking with them, when they're coming by. the flip side of that is that you don't make those relationships either, right? You don't, and while sometimes office gossip is bad, sometimes it's good to hear, especially if you're, even if it's an individual contributor, if you're a leader in the organization, hearing the gossip so that you can address when there are gossip issues that are coming up, and either management or you as a leader, in a team meeting can bring up some of these gossip issues.
Yeah, I mean, when I work remotely, so I would tag everyone, say, "What's going on? Are there any layoffs?" So I was very hyper to the point where they're like, "Oh, Joe's crazy," but yeah, good and bad. I also, when I worked in the office, I had managers that were really chatty. So anytime I want to get out of work, I just start a conversation with them, sit back, and half the day would be gone. So yeah, good and bad. You don't know but yeah, you have to be hyper. Like you said, if most of your team is working on site, you need to kind of engage them more. Keeping the camera on helps, and even just having one-on-ones with your manager every week, or check-ins, like stand-up sprints where you join via camera. Help well.
Chris, did you have something you wanted to say to that? Sorry. I feel like
fine.
Joe and I were taking over, and
no, it's cool. Definitely, when there's an opportunity to not let Chris run rampant with discussion, is a good idea to keep that opportunity. I mean, for me, so as a solution architect, I help mentor and aid with solutions, get things rolling, help out with troubles. Oftentimes when there is troubleshooting, that's my opportunity to get a little bit of a social aspect in as well. So, often I won't just, because remember, we're just all people. We're all people in similar situations, especially with an immense amount of remote work. We're all people that from an outside look like we're crazy people talking to ourselves in front of our computer. That's what it all appears to be. Oh, Chris is at it again. He's just talking to himself while he's typing. He must be nuts. So to combat that, we start off talking about.
Sometimes I talk to myself when I'm typing, just so you know. I mean, I'm taking offense to that right now, right?
Well,
like when you find that bug that you wrote in the code and you're like, oh, well, how could you do that to yourself? Sorry, go ahead.
I do that often. I'm never sure if it's my amazement of the craziness that I do, or if I'm slowly going senile, going, what idiot? Oh, this idiot wrote that. Oh, darn. Womp womp, sad trombone. But you're usually starting off with something, but I think we have to remember that the principles that we had in the office, rather than going up to somebody's desk and be like, I need to know this thing right now, just being kind. We're all just humans, just being nice to each other, maybe asking a thing. Somebody's mother maybe isn't doing well, so maybe you ask about it. Somebody is huge into sports, you might ask about that. They're into hunting. Bow season just starts off. Oh yeah, did you get a chance to go out? Did you get anything? They love skiing. Are you excited? So just starting off with is just a quick little thing. Definitely not how's the weather, because that's just way overused and the weather's usually never right anyways. So, but remembering to start off with something like that is incredibly important. And frankly, helps make it so that you stay sane. Because as we are working remote, one thing that can happen, unless you're in meetings all the time, is you do get that weird feeling of isolation. You don't have the opportunities to, get together at the water cooler, or, go out for coffee like you might have done before, or even just grab a lunch. Those things aren't as common unless, of course, you're close to others that you're geographically close where you could do that sort of thing. Right. One thing that's happened different from working remote, pre 3 years ago to now, is working remote really has turned remote. People took opportunities to move closer to family, to go move to an area that they've always dreamed to be in, to whatever. And I mean, I will always say it this way, we're in the most technologically advanced area that we've been in. So everything is bigger, better, faster, stronger, blah, 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 so that the capability to go somewhere is out there. I mean, look, there's Starlink. You could be literally in the middle of a field that has nothing around you and get pretty darn good internet, which is obviously crucial to that.
So a couple
I would like to
things
piggyback on one. Oh, yeah.
So a couple of things you brought up in there. One is that we didn't mention on the technology, when we were talking about technology, is high-speed internet. You got to have high-speed internet, right?
Yep.
If when you connect to the internet, you hear, that's not going to work. And for those of you who have no idea what that reference is, I'm sorry. You'll figure it out at some point. The second thing that you brought up, which I think people don't understand and don't really appreciate, is the skill. Wow, that's a cool save icon. Sorry.
I say, no, this is not a 3D print of a stave icon.
That's another one of those. If you don't know what it is, Google Lens it, right? You'll figure it out. But the other thing is you talked about troubleshooting. Troubleshooting now is a little different, right? So it used to be, hey, can you come over to my desk and help me? And you start doing this, right? You point here and here, and oh yeah, right there. You can't do that anymore. Yet some of us who talk with our hands still do that, right? Point on that right there. They can't see that. You know that, right? So getting familiar with screen sharing, getting comfortable with screen sharing, understanding when you have confidential information. Some of you are leaders in your organizations, and you might have confidential information that you can't share with even team members. Making sure that you understand what you can screen share, how to screen share safely, I think is a critical skill.
Oh my gosh. I'm just thinking of a story. Screen sharing, not only be careful, but I remember screen sharing, being aware of when you're screen sharing. And I was on a meeting with my manager, and I forgot I was sharing my screen, and people were pinging me. I'm like, oh, I'll be off with these clowns in a minute. And I'm like, oh my gosh, hopefully no one saw that. And I closed it really quick. And after the call, he called me up and said, Joe, I noticed on your. So when you're screen sharing, just being aware that you are screen sharing, and not to get caught in like I did doing stuff like that.
Yeah, like for me, I have a policy that I will only screen share my one screen. Like that's how I segregate things out. So communication is on my monitor 1, and work is on monitor 2. And very rarely am I working on anything that's not shareable. Now, of course, being in healthcare, PHI, PII, the opportunity to have things like that, there are times that's what's on my work screen is not shareable outside of the organization, so like vendor or other collaborators outside. But that's one thing that I definitely do as my personal best practice is emails, chats, other things are only on the one monitor so that you don't have that oops moment, because one thing that we didn't mention is very often our meetings are being recorded for whatever reason. Oh, so-and-so's out sick today, so we're going to record this. Or I can't remember anything, so I'm going to record this so I can go back and look at it and all these things. So, you can't undo that. Yep. And often it's going to the cloud, so you really can't undo that. So coming up with foolproof ways to help yourself not have that oops moment and have something embarrassing happen or worse has helped me out a lot. I might snicker once or twice if somebody's showing something they're not supposed to, but we're just human. You got to remember that. Working from home did not remove the fact that we're just human beings.
And I think Joe, you brought it up the first time. Being on camera is actually really important. Also, understanding that when you are and are not on camera, just like screen sharing at the wrong time, there are times where you need to know how to turn off your camera and turn it off quickly, because you can hear some things in a work context where you just go like, oh my. Are you kidding me? Why would you? And you have it on your face. You need to make sure that you understand. Yeah. Where you go, oh, I can't believe they just said that, right? Or
my wife, I was working, I hear in the background, where's my nudie monster? I was like, oh my gosh, I'm on a call clicking.
That's awesome.
So yeah, you definitely need to be aware of.
I wonder what the production guys are going to draw across the screen for that comment. An NSFW just goes across the screen. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, that's hilarious. So, guys, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to share your wisdom. I mean, because honestly, I got some good. I hadn't thought about really delineating my monitors. that's a great suggestion. I'm hypervigilant before I hit screen share to make sure something's not up there, right? I'm like minimizing all my windows, make sure, is there anything? Okay, is there something in the bottom? Is there something in the tray? As always, we give time for parting thoughts here. So reverse order, Joe, any parting thoughts about this topic or something else? Besides your book, I know you're right. Your book is really important.
I think it's the opposite of what people think. People think when you're working remotely, you're not really working. And I think it's the opposite. When you work remotely, you need to actually find a balance because you tend to be working more. Because you are online, you're connecting to your VPN. I was working weekends, checking my email on all the time. I know managers, once people start working remotely, would start booking meetings outside of the normal time because, everyone's online. Yeah. So you really need to be aware of the balance now. And just be hyper aware that, if you are scheduling a meeting with team members that are remote, that you're not doing it at 5 p.m. on a Friday. If you wouldn't schedule it when you were in office, you shouldn't schedule it when you're online. So just something to be aware of. I think let's more and more go remote.
Boy, that is some sage advice from Mr. Colantonio. All right, so Chris, any parting thoughts?
Well, honestly, that was going to be mine as well, because the balance is harder to do. So I'll actually use a different one. I will say invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. So Joe mentions a good camera and stuff. Ironically, and this wasn't even for this, I promise, month-ish ago, I don't know, you guys keep me honest, I invested in some upgrades. I don't even think I spent over $100 on this stuff. I bought a new camera, cost me like 30 some bucks. I bought a microphone. Yes, it's RGB, but it's just because it's the way it came. And I bought a ring light. And those things have improved my capability to be in meetings, to be crisper, clearer, not to be fuzzy. And then the other thing that I've done in my house here is I went for full hardwired for my desk setup for work. The amount of times I have teammates that are fighting Wi-Fi battles, it's bonkers. Wi-Fi is great for if you have the opportunity to take a meeting from the porch and just have the nice cool breeze outside. If you need to relocate rooms while construction is being done in your office or something like that, Wi-Fi is great. But unless, of course, you're on the second floor.
The early episodes.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Listen, a good attendee watches prior episodes. Jeez.
That's right.
But to take some steps and do things, and to, in our line of business, in solutioning testing things, we normally ask a lot of whys. We don't take no for an answer. So, I can't do that because I'm on the second floor. Well, there's these things called power line. You can get bridges. You can do all kinds of things. Take a little bit and invest in yourself. Just like an employer invests in you, you should take a little bit and invest in yourself. I'm not saying you have to buy a $2,000 webcam or a $300 microphone, but there's things that you can do to make it better. The biggest thing that most of my teammates did, well, I don't have my own podcast, so yeah, no. But Joe, your voice is quite lovely from your very expensive and awesome microphone. But
I'm sure it's also lovely in person.
People are disappointed when they see me in person. And I have all the filters and the good lighting and camera.
Before Joe goes out in public, he has a makeup assistant to his face that matches everything, all his filters.
Yep, for sure.
But it sounds silly. Like when we first started working remote, I did a session for the team about buying a headset. Invest in yourself. Just buy a headset. That's all I ask you to do. Buy a headset so that you can hear me and we can hear you through an appropriate microphone. And no, I'm not talking about those cheap, terrible earbuds that come from Dollar Tree. Please just don't buy those, But just, invest in yourself. We invest in ourselves to continue our education, in watching podcasts like this one and like Joe's and others. So invest in yourself in a little bit of equipment. You don't have to break the bank, and it's not hard to do, and it can make that much of a difference so that you can be clearer on meetings and just present yourself in the best that you can.
And I think that something I'm surprised that neither of you brought up is you have to grow a beard.
I mean, 3 out of 3 attendees in this
That's right.
series.
I'm sorry. Well, guys,
It helps with the noise absorption, which is why we sound so amazing right now.
That's right. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. And I encourage you guys, just like Joe and Chris, if you have topics that you'd like us to cover, if you want to come in and you're an expert in the area, please reach out to me. My email is djackson3@opentext.com. Next session, we're going to talk about, yes, that's right, the big 3. Next session, we're going to talk about actually returning to office. So there's a lot of companies, not as many, but there are a lot of companies out there that are saying, look, we have this office space. You need to be here, right? And so how do you do that effectively, especially if you've been working from home for the last 3.5 years? So I look forward to that session. And once again, guys, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Awesome. Thanks, Don. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
If you liked the video, please click the like button. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you get notified when we release new videos.